everyone, it's Teresa from Slow Paths Wellness, and today is Wellness Wednesday. On Wellness Wednesdays, we talk about mostly Chinese medicine-oriented things, sometimes general wellness, but usually that ends up being more on Functional Fridays. And Wellness Wednesdays aren't quite as released quite as often as Mindful Mondays because sometimes they take a little more digging around for thoughts. But today's Wellness Wednesday is about spring in Chinese medicine. And you're probably asking, why are we talking about spring in January? Well, that's because according to Chinese medicine, springtime is not at the equinox, which is usually in March, on March 21st. I think sometimes it can be the 20th or 21st. But it comes in the springtime, in the time when those first little plant shoots start kind of poking out, when you start noticing little daffodil flowers coming up, when the birds get more active and the squirrels and all the critters get more active. That's considered the start of spring because that's when the energy of spring is there. This year that starts on January 22nd. It starts at the same time as Chinese New Year. So it's a little early compared to sometimes, at least on a Western calendar, sometimes it seems like it comes more in February. But some of the things you'll notice as the weather changes into spring may be warmer weather, but not always. Sometimes it actually just becomes more changing weather, where you may have a really warm day one day and then it snows. And that's part of the idea of a shifting of energy from winter time to where things tend to be more cold and sometimes at least a little more on the stable side, where you kind of rely on it being within a certain range of temperature. But springtime is considered more on the yang side of things, which is where things change and things are variable. It involves the wood element, which deals with liver function and gallbladder function. It also deals with creativity and with the ability to have appropriate anger and to maintain boundaries. And there's also the idea of things happening on time and of details being taken care of. And so what does that mean exactly? It means that at this time of year, those areas and some of the health areas that I'll get into for just a moment will either be the best that there are all year, most likely, or the worst that they are all year, depending on how strong that particular system is in your body. Liver and gallbladder often are stronger, from a Chinese medicine perspective, what they do are also often considered to be stronger, or at least more active in people who tend to be more of what they call a type A personality, or in very creative people. It tends to be the go-getters, or the ones who like to move around or like to do stuff a lot, even if it's only in their head. They tend to find this time of year, if they're overall healthy, very, very pleasant for them. They can do more things. They feel like doing more things. They have all these ideas. The sun's starting to stay out a little longer. It's just a really vibrant time for them. On the other hand, if they personality-wise kind of move that way, or constitution-wise seem to have a lot of issues that in Chinese medicine we would associate with liver health, then a lot of times this time of year can be the hardest time of year, because liver and gallbladder wood energy are about things moving smoothly. So if you have trouble in that, then instead of your day going just, you go to one thing to the next and it goes very smoothly, there's all these little stops and starts. And the stops and starts can be in the form of irritability or moodiness. They can also be in this form of having like hunger kind of be all over the place, where you're either not hungry at all or you're starving all the time, or it seems like no matter how regularly and healthfully you try to eat, you're either, again, your appetite's messed up, and it seems like just digestion doesn't happen at the right time. For a lot of young women, it can be a time where their PMS gets worse, or their menstrual cycle doesn't come at a regular time. And so if you, as I said, if you have a stronger or more of a focus on those two systems in your unique constitution of a body, you may find your health is worse in the springtime than it is in any other time. So some of the illnesses that are affected by this time of year are depression, moodiness, anxiety. Anxiety, a lot of times we tend to think of as in Chinese medicine as being more of a summer or winter thing because of the organs involved, but still this is a time when things are starting to move and starting to go, and a lot of people are starting to want to activate plans, and a lot of times anxiety is wrapped up in whether you feel like you're capable of taking care of yourself or of executing plans that you do. So anxiety could also go up this time of year. If you have a pain syndrome, Pain in Chinese medicine means that qi and blood are not moving properly. They're not moving freely, which means they're getting stuck in places. And that's a component of what can happen on the negative side of weather changes in the springtime. So if you have a chronic pain disease, especially one that is either worsened by stress or by weather changes, you may have a worse time of it this part of the year if you're not aware of that and not able to work within the season somewhat. Some of the other things, people who have bipolar disorder, they may find they end up moving more towards the manic side of things, or when they get into the depression, it's more of a very frustrated kind of depression, not an exhausted, I can't do anything kind of depression, which sometimes is actually much harder to deal with because underneath there's an energy underneath that stuckness. So you want to have an activity, but at the same time you feel inhibited by it, and sometimes that can be much more destructive. People tend to be more likely to do self-destructive things, like overeating or self-medicating with some form of narcotic substance or something like alcohol or even drugs, or doing self-harm sorts of things. A lot of times in Chinese medicine we describe the energy that goes with cutting. When someone cuts themselves as a self-harm, as their energy gets stuck so much that they need to do something to break it. And that's actually very similar to how it's described in mental health circles, that it's a way to distract themselves from emotional feelings by having a physical sensation instead. So those things can get worse this time of year. And let's see as well, let me look because I wrote these down so I wouldn't forget them all. People have trouble with dizziness and vertigo or high blood pressure. A lot of times will have difficulty with that. Let's see, hypertension, irritability, moodiness, ear ringing, that's another big one. Any symptom that tends to be from the neck and shoulders upward, you're more likely to have difficulty with it this time of year. So sometimes people will find like their glaucoma numbers start going up, or acne sometimes even will flare up worse, even if other times of the year lifestyle factors seem to help that. So all these things that can happen in spring, like, wow, why do people love spring so much? Well, that's because there's another side of it too. This is the time when your creative energy wells up a lot. So if you, that's why you see when you go to Home Depot, people start showing up at Home Depot in the next couple of weeks. You'll see it start getting busier and busier because people have ideas. They have things they want to do. And it's not just the indoor, that the weather's nicer outside, because a lot of times they're buying paint and they're buying stuff to do inside the house. It's because our creative energy wells up, and we can use that by practicing something that has a creative outlet, some writing or painting or singing or dancing or something to allow that energy to flow and do the things that it needs to do. There's also the idea of having energy to put towards projects that may not be primarily creative, but are things you want to get done. Getting things done is also a very wood element, liver, gallbladder kind of thing. So this may be the time to tackle a new decluttering a room that's been just kind of defeating you for a while. Or it's maybe the time to take on this new diet that you're wanting to try, especially if it is something that's going to also be healthy for liver cleansing. This is the time of year to start at least thinking about that. If you're going to be doing something involving raw food, I'd recommend waiting a little while longer until it gets a little warmer so your digestion isn't fighting the cold air around it. But this is a time for new projects. It's also a time to address some of these health issues. There are tons of things in Chinese medicine and in functional medicine that can help any health problem. So if you're having one of those problems that's aggravated right now, give me a call, give your local acupuncturist, your local functional medicine practitioner a call, and ask them what may be available for you. A lot of times for me, a 6-week grouping of acupuncture treatments close together can help people begin to start seeing a really big difference in things like pain syndromes or hypertension or diabetes management, which a lot of times has some of the getting stuck process in there between mood alterations and circulation issues and just the up and down of hormones trying to regulate that. Those could all also be very much related, worsened or improved in springtime depending on what you're doing. So if you check in with one of your functional medicine or Chinese medicine practitioners, we can help you a great deal. There are also herbal formulas that can be very, very, very helpful for helping your body adjust to the springtime and the changes that are going on all around you that can only affect your nervous system because they're very foundational to our existence this time of year. And then something else that you can do for yourself is to make the most of the pleasant parts of spring. That's something I talk about, really focusing on the pleasant parts of life a lot on our Mindful Mondays. And that's something you can really do, reap the benefits of spring. One of my teachers in school said that when he was growing up in China, that as soon as things started getting a little green outside, that people would get in their cars and they would drive out to the country and drive just to see like an uninterrupted green field, because it was thought to be soothing to the emotions. So bringing in colors and things from the outside that can give you that, either that soothing sensation that my instructor, my professor talked about, or things that have that little pop of color, dandelions, or some lavender plants, or something that you bring either in from the outside or you buy to have inside, or that are starting to bloom outside. Make sure you have a window so you can see that. And let's see, I think that's about it for what I have for springtime right now. If you have any questions, you can always contact me. Go to slowpathswellness.com and fill out the contact form, and I'll get in touch with you to answer your questions. If you have a comment, you can leave it here, or you can leave it on my Facebook page. I'll have the video posted there shortly. And as always, if you find this video useful, please share it. Please like the video, like my Facebook page, subscribe to the video channel so that you get all the videos. And if there's something you would like to see me cover about Chinese medicine or functional medicine or mindfulness practice or even life coaching or wellness coaching or a specific kind of health issue, put it down in the comments if it's something you can put in that's not personal. Now, I want you to remember that if you do that, if you ask about a health problem, even if it's a health problem you have, I can't speak specifically to your unique situation. So if you ask a question about, say, diabetes or about allergies or something like that, I can answer about allergies in general. I can't answer about your specific allergies, because that's something for you to do with a health practitioner who's actually sitting down with you individually, and they call it establishing a patient-practitioner relationship. I can do that if you want to contact me and set up an appointment. So I hope you have a lovely Wellness Wednesday. I hope the start of spring from a Chinese medicine perspective goes very well for you next year, or next week, and next year too, but next week. And I will talk to you again on a Wellness Wednesday. Bye-bye.